Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
All right, do you have any other questions before we get going?
If I sound really scatterbrained or say a lot of ums and ahs, what do we do?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Packard. I'm really excited to be here today with one of our interns. Jana, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jana.
And Jana, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been interning with Springtide for my spring semester. I'm currently a second year college student, and I'm a psychology major.
Fantastic. And we've been so happy to have you. I mean, the work that you've done, the perspective you've brought for us has been invaluable.
Stop it.
I'm serious. It's been really great.
Thank you.
You know, a big part of what we've been working on while you've been with us is you came into sort of the middle of the belonging report, which comes out here in a few days. And there were some really important findings out of that report that I kind of wanted to talk with you about today and get your perspective on, not necessarily like the validity of the findings, but more so about how you see these things showing up in your own life. And chief among those, you know, what we found is right in line with what Cigna and other large studies have found about isolation and loneliness, namely that it's impacting younger generations more so than ever before. Our data, importantly, I think, goes all the way down to 13, where most studies stop at 18, and shows that these younger generations are more isolated than any other generation and more isolated than they've ever been. They're lonelier, they're more socially disconnected. And I'm wondering, you know, as you were right in this target age range. You've already completed a lot of those years between 13 and 25. Mm-hmm. How do you see this showing up in your own life?
Yeah, I mean, you still connect with people through technology, but it's so much easier. So if I had the opportunity to go out somewhere and do something with people or just message them through my phone, I would choose that just because it takes less effort. And in the moment, I think they're both equally good ways of connection. But I know in the long run, it is not as good at creating long-lasting relationships.
As doing face-to-face?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I see. What makes you feel that way, that it's not as, that it's useful, but maybe not as conducive to long-term sustainability?
I mean, there's only so much you can communicate and only so deep you can get when you're talking and saying LOL and using emojis. I mean, you know,
we have animated emojis now, though, Jana.
I know, right? The ultimate way to communicate. Yeah. It's definitely a lot more superficial than face-to-face communication is. And it's also more limiting. You know, there aren't as many opportunities for the conversation to branch out. There are fewer opportunities for new people to join the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that definitely impacts how I connect personally.
That's really interesting that you brought up this, that there are less, that when you're doing electronic communication, in a lot of ways, it's very confined and constrained, and it leaves less room for other people to join. Tell me more about that and why that's important.
Yeah, so I mean, I think everyone is susceptible to this, but I definitely can fall into an echo chamber with who I talk to. And it's good to talk to people that you have common interests with and people, you know, you have similar perspectives on the world, but that can be really limiting for your personal growth. I think it's important to listen to people who don't think like you and who aren't interested in what you're interested in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the things when you talk about personal growth, I mean, the big focus at Springtide is, as we say, the intersection between the sort of religious and daily lives or inner and outer lives, and you're talking about personal growth here with other people. Is that does that lack of sort of bringing in outside voices? Do you think that has an impact on the development of your spiritual life?
Definitely, definitely, 100%. And I wish it didn't, but the thing is, now that that's the common way that people communicate, it's even harder to get away from, technology. I don't think I could just walk into a religious institution that I know nothing about just because I'm curious and, feel comfortable with doing it.
Hmm.
But I wish I could, because it's definitely the way I talk to people, it definitely limits my spiritual growth. And I wish it didn't.
What do you think do you think that you'd be more challenged, or is it that you think you would find something that resonates with you? I mean, what do you think? I know that you don't know, but if you're guessing, what do you think that you would be missing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to necessarily be challenged. I kind of have such a I have such a hippie perspective on spirituality, and I think every religion is great and, amazing, and I don't really want to change anyone's mind or have my mind
Mm,
changed, but I could definitely resonate with aspects of religiosity and, every religion. And I think that's a really great way to connect with people. Um and I feel like I'm missing out on it.
yeah, it's a really good point, Jonah. Like, I think even back to my own college experiences, like, I don't know that you're spot on. Like, in the days, I don't think I'm that old. You may think otherwise, but certainly I went to college in like pre-social media and those kinds of things. And the conversations that I remember having in that very stereotypical, like around the dorm room,
Mhm,
way that doesn't actually happen all that often um, anymore, if it ever really did. They weren't so much about changing people's minds, but you brought up this really interesting point that I'd like to talk more about, that there were like aspects of people's religious faith and practice that I did end up taking into consideration, whether it was about how to pray or how to worship or what rituals were important or how to be intentional and thoughtful, that those did end up becoming, now that I think about it, like really important pieces for me. Can you talk more
mhm.
about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just think people who are more religious in general, there is this collectivistic attitude about it. And I think it's so amazing that people will have a community and they all have a similar perspective and they're all there for each other, like they all
Hmm.
care about each other. You can go to their house and ask for a cup of sugar if you're making cookies and you ran out of sugar.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like my spirituality is very individualistic, and, that's good in some ways, but in other ways I don't like it. I wish I had a community of people who had similar beliefs to me, because
Yeah.
I don't know, you just need people to fall back on, you know.
Yeah, that's a really lovely way of saying that. I mean, it makes me like I want that for you too. Like the
Right.
community of people that you can fall back on, and in some ways, and this, this that is what concerns me personally about these rates of isolation and loneliness among young people, um, especially because these are such formative and
Mhm.
important times to be finding those communities of people, and I don't know that they're well, we know that they're not finding them all that
Right.
often. You've recently, I mean, within the last few years anyway, you transitioned from high school to college.
Mhm.
Uh, how did that impact this? Did you find yourself like, was it a relief to get out of high school, or was it like, oh, there's a loss of community there, and I don't know how I'm going to replace it?
There
Or
was
both?
relief. There was relief because both. There was relief because I was ready, I outgrew the high school experience, but
Sure.
at the same time, it is very comforting to know that I have a group of friends, and even if we're only friends because we're forced to spend 8 hours a day together, we're still friends, and you'll still be here tomorrow and I'll still see you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of security in that. And then in college, it's a free for all. There's less opportunity to meet people, schedules are all over the place, and
Hmm.
you really have to put in effort if you want to find friends. They don't just fall into your lap. So that's been
Yeah,
tough.
that's a really good point. Like in some ways, it's the least structured time of your life between this
Hmm.
K through 12 education experience. And then for most people, if, obviously not everybody has a gap between K-12 education and the workforce, and some people are doing them
Hmm.
concurrently. A lot of people are, in fact, if not most. But regardless, like the notion that at some point you will certainly have a professional job. You're very bright, and you will have this regular schedule with colleagues that you see on a regular basis. But right now, you're right. Like you are in sort of this space where every day is maybe not up for grabs, but is a lot less
Right.
structured.
Right. And it's when you need people, it's a transitional period, and it's really when you need to find people, even if you have people who you can just commiserate with, you
Yeah.
don't have those people, and it's tough.
Well, so one of the things that we found in the study about, it's not, the study isn't just about, as you know, like documenting the rates of loneliness and isolation, but then also what can be done about it.
Hmm.
Um, and as we talk, as I've been around the last 10 years or so, doing some research and talking with people who are practitioners in the field, I get a lot of the sense of like, well, we have to be doing something more than just listening, but to young people, like we have to be doing programs, or we have to be moving them from one state to another state of religious being or something. And it kind of sounds like what you're saying is that at least at this time in your life, it would be great if somebody was just there to sit and listen.
Yeah, 100%. Or even just like everyone's in the same boat when they go to college, and everybody's struggling and everyone's confused. And I kind of thought everyone being in that boat would sort of form these relationships. And it really hasn't, because people just choose to be confused, and lonely with their phone in their hand,
Mm,
which isn't what people need.
confused and lonely with their phone in their hand. That's just such a, I mean, I think that's such a succinct way of putting it, and sort of sad. And um, as you're talking, like it strikes me that maybe it's like it's just enough connection, right, to make you keep turning to it, but it's not
Hmm.
really enough to fill you up.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so it's certainly understandable that people would, in those moments that they would say like, well, at least I have this, and they would, dig further into it.
Hmm.
Even if it isn't ultimately the thing that's, super useful. It sort of means that like adults who are trying to reach out to young people would do well to keep pushing for those in-person relationships, huh?
Hmm. I think sometimes, I mean, you know, I'm I'm resistant when people who are older than me, sort of tell me what I need.
Sure.
If if they phrase it like that.
Me too. And I'm
Yeah,
40.
right, right. But people that are older than me do have a lot of wisdom, and I think it's all about framing it in the right way and persistence. And I think you can get through to young people that way.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like even maybe taking a pause on the telling them what to do part and just sort of listening to what's going on with them.
Let them vent to you. Young people have so much to be sad about and worried about, and they need someone to just listen and go, "Yep, I get it. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. And actually, I'm not all that different from you either. I'm also concerned about that, and I'm also worried about that." And I think that's an important conversation to have.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, Jana, thank you for just sitting and reflecting with me for a few minutes here on belonging. The report again is belonging, reconnecting America's loneliest generations. Your work is reflected in the report and in many of the things that we do at Springtide. And so, not just a thank you for this podcast, but thank you for all that you've done for us, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Josh. It was great talking to you.
Hey folks, Jana has been one of our amazing interns this past spring semester, and if you care about the same kinds of things we care about at Springtide and you're a college student, we would love to see an application from you. We have internships running in the summer, in each of the spring and fall semesters. You can find instructions for how to apply for marketing internships or data research analysis kind of internships at springtideresearch.org. Look forward to hearing from you.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to download our latest research report, Belonging, Reconnecting America's Loneliest Generation. Sign up for our newsletter and be the first to learn about our upcoming research and ways to take action in your own communities. Today's show was produced by TJ Birnbaum with original music by high school student Christian Unthank. Special thanks to our guests today and all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Remember to find us on social media at We Are Springtide and share your own story with the hashtag ShowUpForYoungPeople. Thanks for listening.